the way we looked at this whole scenario, I mean, obviously nobody could have predicted for it. Nobody could have planned for it. But here it was how you could react to it, and more importantly, build a plan once you react as you go forward. A fair amount of what we do and how we do in terms of our IT processes, systems, technology is built a lot around with a very strong BCP, a business continuity plan. The business continuity plan is put together across various layers. It's put at a infrastructure level, at a process level, at a people level, and a lot of it is then wrapped around with technology embedded inside to make sure that there's always a single point of failure is avoided. And more importantly, you are constantly testing those systems and not waiting for it to get to a situation to test it out. So there are regular DR drills done on the technologies. You do what we call as, if you were to use the word, fake tests, where you actually cut over from one environment to another environment to see that things are backed up, things are running, and environment. We can very confidently have a significant portion of our workforce, about 95%, working remote and supporting clients, where they are needed by regulatory mandatory reasons. IBM has a very strong work from home model even before, but it was not built for a COVID kind of a scenario. It was built to enable flexible working, to enable talent to be flexible, to reach out, to be able to work from where they are, more productivity. So that way the technology layer was built underneath, a technology highway of VPNs, of enabling virtual desktops, of ensuring that the application access, everything was already, the highway was already there across the globe and in India. And the fact that we are a global organization and being present in different countries, we are going through experiences where in some countries we are in the 0 to 30 stage, which is probably India. In some countries, we are already in the 60 to 90 stage, where it's Italy and so on. And in some countries, we are already in the greater than 60 days, which is in China. So given the experience of being present across simultaneously in so many countries, enabled us to bring in the best practices and the knowledge that somebody had by being ahead of the curve, was able to give it across to someone who's going to catch up a little later. Because then it became a sort of way of life. Then you got to bring in, make sure that the right security accesses are there, the controls are there. Then you bring in collaborative tools, so you enable clients with collaborative tools like WebEx technologies and so on. Making sure that the transaction systems, which is whether the ERP systems, whether it is their billing systems or the POS systems or the systems which basically transact business for them at one end, and the system which basically connect on manufacturing supply lines on the other end, making sure that the material flows and so on happen. The data centers which run these systems are well taken care of. There's uptime commitments that are being delivered. There's constant attention being made sure that the right level of backups are done, and making sure that the critical tasks that need to keep the business running are taken care of, and critical staff that need to be present at data centers to manage it have the right requisite of permissions, authorizations from the authorities, special what they call as curfew passes, and all of those where the data centers are located. And while in that phase across, making sure that with the resources that you've got, how do you optimize and make sure which are the tasks that are critical, which are the tasks that can be postponed, and how do you make sure that the transactions of customers and their engagements are working. For example, in the previous world, some of our customers would make decisions based on either people physically getting into a meeting room, or some physical paper moving around, or a certain form of email trails that would go across, or a bunch of people would sit down and make some decisions. This is not going to happen in the new world. So how do you bring in technology? How do you enable them to redesign their workflows of how decisions get made? How do you bring in technologies like DigiSign and DigiDocument, DocuSign kind of capabilities to these people, so that the working with this in the new norm and making it through together and making sense that the back office, so-called back office, or the so-called headquarters function is no longer something away, but is now right in the middle of the entire decision making and solution discussion. There are two kinds of organizations. One kind of organization who's reacted to the situation, who said, okay, I've got hit by this, so I need 100 laptops or 200 laptops to be deployed and to get my people to work. But another set of organizations said, hey, look, if this is the new way of life and work, how things are going to be there, then how do I leverage this model? How do I make this as a way of life? How do I make this as a means of ensuring that my business continues to transact this way? Because maybe this is the first time a COVID has happened, but this is not the last time a scenario like this happens. How can I be better prepared for the future? What learnings have I got from this to do that? So those are what I call as organizations which are more deeper and strategic bent of mind to make sure that they get this, learn from this and put this across. For example, some of the banks had a disaster recovery posture of only about 50%. That means I'll work only 50% of the workload on DR, but now I want to do 100% on DR. So building up the DR posture. Now, as work starts limping back to normal, then some of the things that were kept on the back burner, which were deferred, whether it was change management, change request, patch management, will now start coming into it. Will now start being deployed, and you'll do it in a phased manner and then think. Now, underlying all of this, as we do this together, we've also started putting in technology in between, which basically says that using automation and patching, which basically will test the client's environment, look for an optimum downtime through a process where it checks with the environment, checks with the stakeholders, gets the right levels of permission, does so that there is zero human touch to start with, or at least minimum human touch to start with to get to zero human touch. Even when you go into BAU mode, your BCP postures have to step up. And that's what we have seen across most organizations as we work through. For example, the DR capacity, we've started seeing a very lot of positive traction with customers is the whole thing about the journey to the cloud. A lot of clients who had held back decisions and discussions around cloud have now started opening up with us. We see a lot of clients enhancing their cybersecurity posture because like some of the technologies that they would watch out that they wouldn't want to do, but at the same time, some of the things that they would really want to do is based upon the technology absorption, and at the same time, a clear understanding that the cybersecurity posture has to step up because you're going to have now an environment which is slightly very open, different categories of users now coming into your environment virtually, and at the same time, if you do not, and they could be coming in through non-standardized processes and technologies, but how do you make sure that you're secure in the right level of security? One important area that we've got is a offering called lifecycle management. We know that the current business environment will be slightly stressed for a while, so in certain industries. So we have an offering called lifecycle management within our technology support services business, where we work with clients and look at the technology assets and extend the life of that asset further beyond the end of support period. Which what it does is it basically allows clients to still extract the financial, extract the technical capability of the product for a longer financial time, so that they can conserve cash and spread it out. There are certain industries that have a deeper impact, and the recovery is going to be longer. There are certain industries where the impact, I would call it as a pause, and it will recover back quickly. Almost every customer, whether it's in the hotel industry or the first thing they want to do is make sure that the BCP posture is very strong, irrespective of the business cycle, right? So even the hotel industries want to make sure that the data is available, safe, protected, 100% DR. So they're not wanting to compromise on DR. So that's one. They all want to up their cybersecurity posture, which is equally critical for them, because irrespective of their business up or down, but you can't, your point of leak can become this thing across. That's the second area. The third is they're all getting ready for a variable workforce, which means that the whole gig economy will come into place, which means that you're really not looking at a workforce as traditional being employed directly by you. It could be a workforce that will be brought in at various points in time for specific tasks, specific projects, and hence the need to keep an environment or technology which is open enough to allow to bring in the best insight for specific tasks, specific projects, specific outcomes, with the right level of security and access, and again let them go, is what people are now coming to terms with it, and you'll see an acceleration of that.